All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're looking at something that is honestly terrifying but absolutely fascinating: the siege of physical trust. We're going to examine exactly what happens when seemingly unbreakable, military-grade security systems are just completely compromised by advanced persistent threats, or APTs as they're known in the industry. If you think you're perfectly safe just because you bought the right hardware, well, prepare to have your perspective totally shifted.
Okay, let's dive into this. What exactly happens when the ultimate physical security system fails? We aren't talking about your everyday run-of-the-mill phishing link here. We are setting the stakes at a state-grade digital heist. These attackers don't just want a password. They want total invisible control over your entire digital reality.
To really understand this breach, we first have to establish the fortress walls, right? And in the digital security world, those walls are typically built with YubiKeys. These are military-grade physical hardware tokens. If you use one of these, the fundamental security promise is simple but incredibly powerful. Your account is totally 100% inaccessible unless this exact physical key is actually sitting right there in your hand plugged into your device. It's basically the ultimate countermeasure to remote hacking.
Our source documentation explicitly spells this out. It says these are not convenience tools. They are military-grade authentication tokens designed to prevent phishing, credential theft, and remote compromise. Adopting these tools requires a serious, almost burdensome commitment to your personal digital safety. But as you'll see, a Pegasus-class advanced persistent threat actually manages to completely subvert the device's root of trust. It turns that ironclad physical security into a total illusion.
Act 2. The vulnerability of physical interdiction. So, state-grade actors don't just stay in the digital realm.
If they target you, they will literally intercept your packages before they even reach your front door. To grasp this, look at this chilling timeline from October 2025. The victim here ordered Faraday bags from Amazon to try and isolate their compromised hardware. But the tracking logs tell a very different story, a story of deliberate interference. The package arrives at a sort facility on October 4th. Then it suffers these mysterious external service disruptions on October 6th. It sits in a weird transferring state on October 7th, and it isn't finally picked up until October 14th. Guys, this wasn't a logistical error. This was a physical supply chain interception.
And this brilliantly illustrates the level of sophistication we're dealing with. It's almost unbelievable. But contradictory tracking logs actually show that at one point, both Amazon and the courier services confirmed the item was delivered. And then they subsequently reversed the status, claiming it hadn't arrived yet. State-level resources actively manipulated the courier documentation just to buy themselves time with the victim's package.
So, while that tracking was locked in a transferring to shipping center state, the package was being actively messed with. When the victim finally recovered the bags, forensic checks revealed something genuinely horrifying. The protective Faraday lining, the exact thing designed to block signals, had been surgically removed from the interior of the bags. The attackers intercepted the countermeasures themselves.
Now, here's why this matters so much. The user did absolutely everything right, but standard checks just gave them a false positive. Initial connectivity tests using basic mobile checks appeared to pass perfectly fine, but under deeper inspection, total signal leakage. Phones placed inside the bags successfully received calls. No way, right? And this tampering was consistent across newly received Amazon bags, older stored bags, even third-party bags. The physical security layer was entirely engineered to create a false sense of security while actually being completely neutralized.
Act 3. Why Apple devices outtrust the YubiKey.
That covers the physical domain. But let's shift to the digital architecture to see the fatal flaw here.
We have this inherent conflict between physical presence and digital convenience. A YubiKey relies on ironclad physical presence. You physically have to tap it or plug it in. But ecosystems like Apple prioritize a seamless, frictionless user experience. The system wants to keep your devices logged in indefinitely, so you aren't constantly reaching for your keys all day long. So in this conflict, the platform actually trusts its own digital memory way more than your physical key.
It manages this using authentication tokens. Think of these as small digital VIP passes that are issued and stored in hidden files once you successfully log in that very first time. Because these tokens replace the need for you to repeatedly type passwords, it creates a massive blind spot. Your YubiKey is often only requested once during the initial device setup. After that, because the platform trusts the token more than the physical key, the key rarely ever appears again for your daily tasks. Act 4. How the APT exploits this trust. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how the attackers leverage this exact architecture.
They don't even try to break the YubiKeys' advanced cryptography. They just bypass it completely. The breakdown of the digital heist works like this. First, the APT achieves root access, meaning the spyware acts as the true owner of the phone. Then, once inside, this phantom presence programmatically copies all of those stored authentication tokens and session cookies right out of your device's hidden memory. Finally, they reuse these stolen tokens on their own external servers. To the service provider, the attacker just appears as your active, trusted device making the request, which grants them completely untethered access.
The catastrophic reality is captured beautifully in this quote from the forensics. If a token can generate new ones, the attacker can stay logged in indefinitely, even after passwords are changed. Because the physical YubiKey is bypassed entirely, this root-level exploit makes your hardware security key utterly useless for any subsequent logins. The attacker has stolen your session, literally turning your physical key into a paperweight.
Act 5. The Siege of Physical Trust and Account Sabotage. It's not enough for the APT to just steal access.
They create what is essentially a managed reality for the user so you don't even realize they've done it. They systematically sabotage your security through spoofed interfaces. You might plug in your YubiKey and the rootkit manipulates the interface to show you a faked spinning wheel or a no credentials found error. While the screen tells you the key failed, the underlying system actually accepted it, and the attacker silently stole your session in the background. They'll disable Face ID just to force you to type passwords manually into persistent kernel-level keyloggers. They intercept your emails to IT support with hidden filters, and they'll even programmatically deregister your authorized keys and delete your backup recovery codes just to lock you out permanently.
This creates a continuous systemic subversion through what we call the parasitic conflict model. Standard forensic tools like the Mobile Verification Toolkit, or MVT, often return completely clean results because this malware operates beneath the layer they even scan. It's a highly sophisticated system operating simultaneously with the host device, modifying firmware, and creating this dysfunctional loop that actively intercepts and suppresses system diagnostic logs.
Act 6. The verdict. Total loss. We've reached the chilling conclusion of this forensic analysis. When an APT breaches a system to this degree, a compromised root of trust cannot simply be remediated with a quick software update or a password change. The reality of firmware-level persistence is absolute. This APT operates entirely beneath the operating system. It survives the absolute deepest factory resets, known as DFU restores. By abusing automated device enrollment, the exact moment a wiped device connects to the internet, it immediately pulls down the malicious payloads all over again. It modifies system logs in real time. On an infected device, your high-end hardware security token merely becomes a useless prop in a managed reality directed entirely by the attacker.
So, the forensic mandate from the Intelligence Archive is totally uncompromising here. There is no software fix, no magical patch, and honestly no YubiKey that can save you at this stage. Once persistence is achieved at the firmware level, the hardware is considered a total loss. The device itself must be physically retired and completely destroyed.
Which leaves us with a truly unsettling reality about our modern digital ecosystem. When state-level actors can physically intercept your countermeasures in the mail, harvest your digital tokens, and spoof the very screens you use to log in? If your device lies to you, how do you know what's real? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. And remember, keep questioning the screens in front of you.